Hello, everyone, and welcome to my review of the Buzzsprout podcasting platform. So before I get into the detail, I just want to compare a few podcasting platforms. The two that I really have worked with are obviously Buzzsprout, and the other one is Audioboom, and I'll draw some comparisons as I go through the demonstration. But just before we begin, what I did was when I was trying to decide on what podcast platform to use, I came up with a bit of a short list, and you can see here these are really the ones I looked at. My short list was Buzzsprout, SoundCloud, and Audioboom. You'll see they do have a variety of free plans, and I'll talk about the free plans in a little bit when I go through the review. But ultimately, I decided on Buzzsprout. As I say, I did also sign up for Audioboom to compare the two, so I'll be feeding some of the Audioboom features into the review as and when we go. So let's get kicked off with the review. Right, I'm going to head over to the Buzzsprout platform. As you can see, I'm already signed in, so it takes me straight to my home page. And what you can see here is your current episode. So if I look at my podcast, which is called the Agile Career Podcast, I'm on episode 24. And scrolling down, I can see all of my podcast episodes that I've previously uploaded. And I can interact with them here. I can view their stats. I can edit them, and I can listen to them, of course. So what I'll do before I show you how to upload an episode and publish an episode is I'll take a bit of a walk through the platform itself. So using the menu at the top here, I'll just work through the stuff sequentially. The first section is players, and what the section is for is giving you an option to embed podcast players in your website or other websites. It could be a WordPress platform, or it could be a custom built website. Effectively, what you can do is you can choose the layout of the player you want. There's a few more options to customize it here, so you can include episodes only with certain tags or your most recent ones. And what it'll do is it'll generate a bit of code for you, and you can then embed that code in whatever platform it is you choose to embed your player on. So that's really helpful. I tend to do this on some web pages, but you can do it on anything that'll allow you to embed this code. Of course, you can build a customized player as well, so it gives you a little more control over how you want your web player to look. And but I just tend to use the standard ones. Right, then what this allows you to do as well is host a website for your podcast. So what Buzzsprout will do is they'll host the podcast for you, obviously, but they'll also host a website. And what I've chosen to do is I've chosen to use a custom domain. So I went and I registered this custom domain, and all I did was point it. I went into the section, obviously, pointed it towards my custom domain, and it was all set up. What you do need to do on the other side, wherever you're hosting the domain, is just to add a name record to essentially redirect the traffic. So that goes to this domain to Buzzsprout. So if I go and show you how that looks, essentially I'll go into my custom domain, and you can see what that looks like to the end user. It basically gives a description of the podcast as I've entered it, and you'll see where I do that a little bit later. It gives me some shortcuts to some platforms where you can go and listen to the podcast in addition to directly from the website, and you can see all the episodes listed out there. Now, the one shortcoming of taking this approach is, and you'll notice up here on the top left, it says not secure. You cannot use an SSL certificate on this domain because what it's doing is it's redirecting to the Buzzsprout platform. So unfortunately, you can't have an HTTPS connection, which is a bit of it's not a train smash, I suppose, but it would be great if you could do that. So that's one shortcoming, and I think you'll find that with all of the players anyway, or all of the platforms. Right, so back to the Buzzsprout platform. What you can also do is add your social media links. You'll see I've got all of mine in there, and you saw those on the top right-hand side when I went to my website. And of course, you can change the URL. So you can see here I'm using my custom one, but if I had to use the default one provided by Buzzsprout, it would be following this link here. And here the instructions are to change the CNAME records with your domain provider to redirect your custom domain to your Buzzsprout hosted podcast. Right, so the next section on the top is your directories, and this is where your account will allow you to go and share your podcast with the directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now, there's a bit of a mixed bag here, and you'll see some have got a tick mark as listed, and this is where Buzzsprout automatically goes and lists your podcasts for you. Then you can see there are some other, so for example, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. I am listed on those as well, but I needed to go and do that myself. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some of them are done for you, and others you will need to go and do yourself. Interestingly enough, there's some podcasts coming up on Amazon soon. You'll see I've submitted for that. I'm just waiting for the platform to go live. And then also the key thing is that once you're listed on Apple Podcasts, it automatically lists you on these other podcast platforms as well. So that's the directories. Another important bit here is to look at your RSS feed. Now, this is the feed that ultimately gets submitted to all of the podcast platforms like Apple and Google and Stitcher and Spotify. And this tells those platforms where your podcast actually is, and it just follows this RSS feed. So if you go and publish a new episode or you make changes to a previous episode, they automatically sort of propagate or feed through to those podcast platforms. You don't have to go to all the other platforms and manually submit an update. Importantly, you'll also need this RSS feed if you're migrating between podcast hosting platforms. So for example, if you had signed up at something like Audioboom or SoundCloud, and you wanted to migrate all of your content across to Buzzsprout, for example, you would need an RSS feed that that platform would give you, and you use that for the migration. So pretty easy to move between podcast platforms, and yeah, it all works really, really well. I've given that a test, moving between this one and Audioboom, and of course back again because I'm still with Buzzsprout. So the next one to look at is monetization. And again, probably not something that's relevant to me at the moment. I don't really have the volume of downloads that warrants getting a sponsor on board. So certainly that's something to think about in the future. You can see down here as well the affiliate marketplace. And what I will say is, and just for the sake of transparency, that I will provide a link below this video or in the article that you're reading that goes along with this video. It is a affiliate link. You can see here, if you do click on it, I will be rewarded at no cost to yourself. And also, if you take up a paid account, I'll only be rewarded, obviously, if you take up a paid up account. And also, importantly, is if you take up a paid up account and you stay on for at least 2 months, you pay 2 months worth, you will get a $20 Amazon gift card. So that basically pays for your first two months. Right, then some settings for the podcast. Now, as you can see, when I went to the page a little bit earlier on, you could see this is where the podcast description came from. This will feed through to all the platforms that you publish it to. So whether it's Apple, whether it's Google. I've uploaded my artwork. You can see there's some categories to enter. So most things tend to be driven from the Apple Podcast categorization. So I've chosen business careers for mine. You can add some additional categories if you think those are relative. Your time zone, your language, and then some copyright information. Also importantly, you can mark if your podcast contains any explicit material like swearing. This is really important, especially for platforms like Apple. If you do have swearing in there, you do need to have this marked so that they know that they can't market or provide your podcast to people who are not suitable to be listening to it. Next, then you can choose your podcast type. So mine is episodic. That means there's a number of episodes and you can listen to them in any order. You can also change it to be serial, which means that people need to listen to them in the sequence at which they're released. You might want to use that if you're providing some form of training as a podcast and you're kind of building on episode by episode. As you can see, this is my personal web address, just to allow people to find out more about me. And how many episodes I want listed on the page, and then the keywords that I want to have included if people do search. So you can see mine's really about career and learning. So that's all about the podcast info. What you can do is you can add additional team members. So if, for instance, you do have people helping you produce your podcast, you can add them here and they can get access to the platform as well. I'm going to look at the plan I'm on. So you can see I pay $12 a month and I get 4 hours of upload. Now, this is one of the interesting bits to compare when you do look at podcast platforms, because some don't limit the amount of content you can upload. Buzzsprout does, and of course it doesn't cap you, it doesn't stop you when you get to your limit, which for me is 4 hours. What it'll do is it'll charge you an extra $4 to have an extra amount of uploads. So certainly it does sometimes get a little bit more expensive than a platform like Audioboom, which fixed the costs at $9.99 a month. So there is a bit of a cost thing to think about. I'm not going to go into the billing because, in fact, I will go into billing actually. You can see that I do subscribe to the platform. So you can see here, I've been a subscriber to the platform for a number of months. So, just to give you an idea that I actually do pay for this, and, I'm not just making this video for the sake of it. I do believe in this platform. I do think it's the best podcast platform out there. You can see most months I've paid $12. Some months I've uploaded a little more content. My episodes have been longer, and it's cost me $16 a month. Right, the next bit then is looking at backup. And this is where you can go and download all your content. If you are wanting to archive it or move off the platform, you may have deleted your original files that you've prepared. So it's good to know that you can get hold of them over here. And then obviously if you want to go and cancel or redirect your podcast, you can go over here. And this is really where, you are moving it across to a different platform, or you just want to be keeping a bit of an archive. So there are some episodes once you decide to perhaps stop podcasting or you decide to move on. Then finally is the stats section. And over here you can see, for example, some statistics on my podcast download. So again, I'm no Pat Flynn by any stretch of the imagination, but I am working towards it. And what this is good for is obviously understanding how many downloads you are getting per episode. Here I can see my top episodes. It also gives me some insights into what platforms are the most popular. So by and large, almost 40% of the listens for the last 5 episodes anyway are for Apple, are done on the Apple podcast platform or podcasts. If I just change it to all time, let's see, I can still see that Apple is very popular. 22% are coming from the Buzzsprout site, and you can see there are some others. This also forecasts how many downloads you should get per each episode. It does vary depending on the previous episodes that you've published and how popular those are. And then finally, you can go to each of these providers and get a little bit more insight into your stats around your podcast. I would say it does take quite a while for some of these to get enough stats to provide any sense. So when you first start your podcast, you may not get any numbers just yet. You'd have to wait a few episodes. I could then just do a bit of a breakdown into the amount of episodes. So I can see here the amount of downloads for each episode. Again, which are the most popular, how many downloads each of them got. I can go and have a look at the apps and the devices that are being used to consume my podcast. So if I look at all episodes, I can see here Apple iPhone is the most popular, probably because the most popular app is Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. But I can see as well, there's other platforms like Android, Apple Computer, Windows, Apple Watch, which is interesting. So yeah, someone's listening to my podcast on their watch, which is great. And then a bit of a categorization. So some people even watch on their smart TV, which is good to know. Right, so you can then go and do a bit of an analysis by location. Let's take a look at all episodes. So I can see 73% of my podcasts are listened to in Europe, then followed by the North America, Asia, Africa, and Oceania. So that just gives you a little bit of insight into where the people are that are listening to your episodes. Here's a breakdown by country and a breakdown by city. So again, some interesting things to kind of understand about where your podcast is popular and who and how are they listening to it. And then finally, the last bit here, achievements, is a bit of a sort of gamification page. And this just really kind of tells you, your achievements and all of those sorts of things. So hopefully when I publish my next episode, will be 25, I will unlock that achievement. Just a bit of fun, I suppose. Nothing too serious. So then before we go on to actually uploading an episode, there's a bit of detail on the top up here. You can change your profile. What I would say about Buzzsprout is they have an amazing amount of resources. The blog is phenomenal. There's so much good content on there. It helps you with producing your podcast. It helps you market your podcast. There's really valuable information on there. You don't have to sign up to the platform to consume that it's just publicly available. And also, once you've signed up, they do send you through a weekly or a fortnightly email with some great articles and advice and tips. Now, the one drawback of Buzzsprout, or I'd say it's not a drawback, but this is where other platforms potentially have an advantage, is if I look at my podcasts, you can see here is my Agile Career podcast, which I pay $12 a month to have hosted. If I want to launch another podcast, so for example, if I decide to do one for data strategy, or I decide to do one for small business, I can't mix it up with this current hosting plan. I could, I suppose, if I want to mix up all the episodes, but I wouldn't want to do that. I would have to create a new podcast, and that means I need to pay an additional $12 per month. Now, on a platform like Buzzsprout, a platform like Audioboom, you don't have to do that. You can do it all under your one plan for $9.99 a month. So if you do think you're going to be hosting like loads and loads of podcasts, different podcasts, then you might need to think about that. But by and large, this was fine for me. This takes a lot of my time anyway, so I'm not going to be hosting more than one podcast for now. And even if I did, I probably would just sign up for an additional $12 a month, because I think this platform really is the best platform. Right, so let's get into the nitty gritty and go and have a look at publishing an episode. So I'm going to click back to episodes over here. Now, what I've done before I started this demo is obviously produce my episode and, get it all neat and tidy and recorded and edited and all of that. So I didn't have to make you watch all of that. If that is something of interest, then please just reach out and I can help you with that. I do plan on doing some episodes around, or some videos around, producing your own podcast. But for now, we're just focusing on the Buzzsprout platform. So I'm going to go ahead and upload a new episode. There is an option here called Magic Mastering, and what this will do is it'll equalize your levels and really just sort your audio out. This is especially important when you're doing an interview, for example, and the interviewee does not have the same equipment as you, or they're coming in via Skype or Zoom. I've not tried this. I find the quality of my episodes to be fairly good. I've got a decent microphone, and guests coming in via Skype and Zoom, the quality tends to be pretty good. I've not noticed any issues, so I don't sign up for this, and I haven't tried it, so I'm just going to skip past that. Now, as I said, I've produced my show already, so I've got an MP3 file all ready to go. So all I'm going to do is choose to upload that. And I'm going to go ahead and say, here we are, episode 25. And here we can see my MP3 file. I've already sorted out the metadata and the artwork and all of those sorts of things. So all I'm going to do is upload it now. Now, this episode I focused on Mental Health Awareness Day, just because that is today, the 10th of October. So I am going to title this episode 25, Mental Health Awareness Day. What I have done is I've also created all of the text already. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. As you can see, I've put in hyperlinks already and sorted out all the stuff I need to do. I'm just going to paste that in, and by and large, the formatting's all already there. Let's see, we just want to make that look good. Check that everything else is okay. That's all good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick with the default artwork. Now, this is what I uploaded to my profile. You could choose custom artwork for each episode if you want. I've chosen not to do that just because it's a lot of work. I'm going to say Season 1, Episode 25. It's a full episode. It doesn't contain any explicit material. And I'm then going to go and add a little more detail. So typically when I interview guests, I tend to include their name as well, and just in case someone's searching for it, it might be good to pick up the episode. In summary, what I normally do is I normally just take this section that I write up and include it there. Some platforms tend to display that separately. If you do have a custom web page for each episode, so for example, you might be hosting it on your blog, as in a custom page per episode on your blog, you'd put that in there. I don't do that. And then I'm going to add some tags. Let's see, this is about career, but it's about mental health as well. So those are the key things I want to categorize it as today. I think that's it for now. And double check that everything's okay. All good. So I'm going to then go ahead and save the episode. So now I can see the episode is in draft. It's not published, but it's ready to go. What I can do is publish it now. Let's go in here, and I could go ahead and publish it, or I can schedule it to go out on a certain date. That does work. I've tried it before when I was on holiday. I recorded my episode ahead of time, and it went live automatically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and publish this now, and there we go. The episode is published. So if I now go and look on my website, there we go, episode 25. It will take a while to appear on these other platforms. Sometimes it's pretty immediate. Sometimes it takes a couple of hours. I think just depending on how often they trawl and are refreshed via the RSS feed. So my podcast will appear pretty soon on those. I'll go ahead and take a look a little bit later. But just to flip back to the platform now, what I can go and do is I can start promoting my podcast, and there's some really great tools that Buzzsprout provides to be able to do that. You can go and add a transcript, so it'll obviously trawl through your audio and create an amount of text for you. You do have to pay that in addition to your subscription. So I typically don't do that. Chapter markers, pretty helpful, but I haven't used them yet. So again, a nice feature. And again, this is one of the newer features that have come onto the platform since I've been using it. And then a really great tool is creating a visual soundbite. So what I'm going to do is show you how that's done. I'm going to go into that, and what it'll do is it'll load up my current episode, and I can then go ahead and play. And what I could do is anywhere from 15 seconds to 60 seconds, I can create a sound bite, which would then take whichever content I've decided to do. So I can say, from here, I might want to, if I just hit play, and then say I want that for 26 seconds. And preview, what it'll do is it'll go from where I've paused for 20 seconds, and it will create an MP4 file. So it's a video file, and it will have that sound clip. So you can then go ahead and use that on a platform like LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. Sounds good, continue. What it'll do is it'll go ahead and process that, and you'll get an email a few minutes later once it's done, and you can just come back into this page over here, and you'll be able to download the visual soundbite. So that's really great. Then some additional options here for sponsorship. Again, I haven't done that just yet. I think I need to grow a little bit more in terms of listens and audience. And then, of course, you can go and share your latest episode via your social media that you've set up. What I tend to do is I use a tool called Buffer that I then go and schedule the stuff at a later stage. I don't generally do it from here, but it is as easy to do it as just clicking on it here. And then a few more options here. Email a link to someone, download the MP3, create an embed code, or then just view the stats. So essentially, that is the tour of the platform done. It's as easy as that. It really is a slick platform. As I say, I've been using this for about 6 months now. I did sign up for Audioboom as well, so I could compare the two. This is a lot slicker. The UI is a lot better. It's got more features. I think the only negative thing is the fact that it's going to cost you a little bit more, a few dollars more a month, especially if you're going to host multiple, not episodes, multiple podcasts, so different podcasts. That's something to bear in mind, but I really do think that this is a fantastic product. And just to remind you again, if you do click on the link that I will provide alongside this, it is an affiliate link, so I will earn a small commission if you sign up for, if you stay signed up for a number of months. It's 2 months on a paid plan. Also, if you do stay signed up for at least 2 months on a paid plan, you will receive a $20 Amazon gift card, and that'll come from Buzzsprout themselves. And yeah, so if you think this has been helpful, please leave some comments. Please get in touch. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to learn about the platform, or in fact about podcasting, and I would be happy to share any of that with you. Thanks for watching.